The following program is a special presentation of the Big Ten Network, produced in association with the University of Wisconsin.
He is quite simply one of the most unique and interesting filmmakers of our time, or any other time. Beyond capturing Oscars and Emmy Awards, he's also developed an interesting relationship with mass murderer Ed Gein. He made a fellow director eat his well-cooked shoe. And when a student at Wisconsin, he liked to rock climb at Devil's Lake in a shirt and tie. If you are not interested in staying tuned to see who this person is, well, respectfully, you might want to think about being a little more curious. So stay with us for Wisconsin Reflections. He has one of the most interesting eyes in the world, yet his work is more informed first by simple conversations with very interesting people. His documentary, Fog of War, a revealing profile of the architect of the Vietnam War, Robert McNamara, won him an Academy Award in 2003. Errol Morris's other documentary films include the critically acclaimed Gates of Heaven, The Thin Blue Line, and the recently released Standard Operating Procedure about the sad, bad doings at Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq. He's the acclaimed film director and a 1969 Wisconsin grad, Errol Morris, and he's with us today. How great that you're back in Madison.
Great to be back in Madison.
I told you beforehand, I'm geeked. I'm a huge fan. Let's start with a very simple thing. You've been able to make a living as an artist. You kind of straddled several careers before you were able to support yourself with your film work. What is it in you that made you a documentarian? And probably the most unique documentarian of our time.
The ugly truth is that I've never been able to make a living with my film work.
Still?
Still.
Really?
I think it gets worse and worse all the time.
Oh, God, I think just with my purchases alone, you should have a nice house.
I do.
How so? I mean, documentaries are notoriously tough to make money on.
I do have a nice house, but the nice house was not provided for by my own work. I discovered about probably now close to 20 years ago advertising.
Mm-hmm. Commercials?
Yes. And I had gotten this prestigious fellowship, a MacArthur Fellowship.
Mm-hmm. A genius grant.
That's what they call it.
Yes,
rightly or wrongly.
You have a piece of paper that says you're a genius.
It doesn't say that on the piece of paper.
Oh, it doesn't? Oh, okay.
Too bad. But they give you a certain amount of money every year. But at that same time, I started making commercials, and I thought, well, this is my real MacArthur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's continued to provide a very good livelihood over the years.
And you're responsible for one of my favorite campaigns, and being from Wisconsin, it was for the Miller Brewing Company, but if anyone remembers the Miller High Life Man commercials, those very distinctive commercials and award-winning commercials were yours, as well as work with AT&T. So it's your documentary filmworking that allowed you to make essentially the commercial art money. Does that then in turn fund your continuing documentary work?
Not really. I hate to some prospective filmmakers out there discouraging about the opportunities to make a living doing this. And I imagine there are people who in fact do make a living. It's hard. The more crazy, the more idiosyncratic your films, the harder it is to survive in the marketplace. I've been lucky, though. I've been very, very, very lucky.
Oh, it's not just luck. It's talent as well. Has the distribution, the changes in distribution mix, where you can now buy your films off of iTunes or Apple TV or Netflix, has that provided a revenue stream that you didn't have when it was traditional distribution, where you had to get into theaters? Has it helped at all?
No.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Have you talked to your agent lately?
I don't really know.
Yeah.
You make these things. I don't even know why I make movies. I am compelled to make them. The most recent movie if you ask me, why do you make a movie about a 30-year-old tabloid story, it interested me and the characters interested me.
And that's the story about a former Miss Wyoming who made off with a Mormon missionary, ostensibly kidnapped him?
It's the sex and chains story, yes. Yes.
If you look at your body of work, whether it be Gates of Heaven or Dr. Evil or your fascination with Ed Gein, are you drawn to stories that make other people uncomfortable and they immediately are repelled by that, but you're drawn to it because you find yourself wondering, why does this make me uncomfortable? Is that fair to ask?
I don't think I'm drawn to these stories because they make people uncomfortable. I mean, I'm drawn to them because I like them.
Right.
I mean, a lot of what I do today comes out of being in Wisconsin years and years ago. When I was an undergraduate here, everybody would talk about Ed Gein. Ed Gein was this fabulous
Murderer and cannibal.
Well, the movie Psycho had been based
Right.
on Ed Gein.
From Plainfield, Wisconsin, about 60 miles north of Madison.
Has he also, like Gordon Roselip, lapsed into obscurity?
No, he's less obscure than Gordon Roselip. They offer a Gein burger at the Plainfield truck stop still.
They didn't in those days.
They do now.
They do?
That's what I drive by there a lot. Hey, when we come back, we have to take a break.
Yes.
Okay. When we come back, I want to ask you what it's like when they say, and the Oscar goes to Errol Morris, and what that moment is like. Okay?
Sure.
Great. We'll be right back with the famed and talented Errol Morris. We're in Madison, Wisconsin. Stay with us.
This program is a production of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. If you have comments about this broadcast, please email them to programming@uc.wisc.edu.
Where others saw lumber, we recognized a treasure. Where others saw the night, we chose the stars. Where others saw pieces, we unlocked the puzzle that could mean the end of paralysis and cancer. Since 1848, thinkers and achievers at Wisconsin have fearlessly sought ideas that transform the world. Keep on, Wisconsin. Keep on.
I want to say, and this is very important, at the end, we lucked out. It was luck that prevented nuclear war. We came that close to nuclear war at the end. Rational individuals. Kennedy was rational. Khrushchev was rational. Castro was rational. Rational individuals came that close to total destruction of their societies. And that danger exists today.
That was Robert McNamara in the film Fog of War, which won our guest, Errol Morris, an Academy Award. Congratulations. Before we talk about Fog of War, you're sitting in the auditorium, you're in your tuxedo, and they say,
And
your sneaks.
My Sperry topsiders.
Good.
Yes.
And they say, and the winner of the Academy Award is Errol Morris for Fog of War. What does that moment feel like?
I've never actually been a deer in the headlights, but I think, as I imagine it, it's the closest thing to being a deer in the headlights. I mean, there's nothing that really prepares you for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not like you can take a course at the University of Phoenix and learn how to conduct yourself at the Oscars. But it's thrilling. It's fabulous.
You are on the periphery of Hollywood, but that night you must have been congratulated by people that you didn't know, but whose work you had watched for a long time. Were there any interesting moments in the celebratory, celebrations after?
It's all a kind of blur. I was delighted that the film won. There were a whole number of films I'd never been nominated before, so that in itself
Which is shocking to me.
was a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, but your films were always critically acclaimed. They were always in the top 10 films of the year. Gates of Heaven and Thin Blue Line both were critically acclaimed.
The nice thing about winning the Academy Award is you don't have to worry about winning an Academy Award again after that.
And Academy Award
It's
winner
resolved.
precedes your name for the rest of your life.
You get the phrase in front of your name, you get the trademark symbol, you get the whole deal.
You went to Wisconsin in the late 60s during the foment of the anti-war Vietnam War demonstrations. Was your choice to do Fog of War and this profile of Robert McNamara, what was your motivation for? Were you trying to answer who was responsible for this war and how did they get to this point? And also, what kind of man was Robert McNamara?
Well, I told McNamara on a number of occasions that I had been an anti-war demonstrator at the University of Wisconsin. It's a little bit after his time. Mm-hmm. He left the administration in 1967, 68. I was demonstrating the end of 68, 69.
That's probably why he got out, because he knew you were going to start demonstrating.
He got out because he no longer believed in the war. One of the ironies is that he, as you yourself described him, is still seen as one of the architects of the war. And strictly speaking, that's correct. He was there, he was the Secretary of Defense. But there's something very deeply complex, interesting about this man. And that was one of the reasons that I was drawn to making the movie.
How did you get his consent?
By chance. I called him, thinking he's never going to agree to an interview, and he accepted. What I didn't know is he had been on a book tour. I knew he'd written a book, but I didn't know he was traveling around the country, appearing in various different places, a book called Wilson's Ghost. And he thought I was part of his book tour deal. That this was something that had been organized by
the publisher or whatever?
The publisher or the agent. And so he agreed to do it, and then he called me back immediately afterwards and said, "Oh, this was a big mistake. I'm not going to be interviewed by you." And he went on at enormous length about why he was not going to do the interview. And after about 30, 40 minutes of this, he said, "But I said I'd do it, so I'll do it." And he showed up, and it was going to be for 20 minutes, then it was going to be for a half an hour, then it was going to be for an hour, then it's 2 hours, then, "Oh, I'll come back and we'll do some more." And that went on for many months. And even after the movie was finished, I continued to interview him. I have all of these, literally tens of hours of tapes.
Well, those are historically important archives. And speaking of history, when we come back, we want to talk about your years in Madison, which you credit a lot for the way you view the world and your work as a filmmaker. And I just
I blame Madison for everything.
Perfect, great. Well, let's find out what he blames Madison for when we return with Errol Morris. We're in Madison. Stay with us.
Great People is our campaign for need-based scholarship aid. It's the key to the long-term well-being of the university as a whole.
In 1970, tuition cost about $500.
Today, it's about $9,000.
We don't want UW-Madison to be a university that is deemed to be out of reach.
The Great People Scholarship gives students a chance to succeed in life.
Support the Great People Scholarship. Visit uwgreatpeople.org.
The day they picked me up, December 21st, they took me upstairs. What floor, I don't know, but they put me in a little room. Gus Rose walked in. He had a confession there he wanted me to sign. He said that I would sign it. He didn't give a damn what I said. I would sign this piece of paper he's got. I told him I couldn't.
We're back in Madison with Academy Award-winning documentary filmmaker Errol Morris, a Badger grad. That clip from The Thin Blue Line, which is probably your first breakthrough work, or Gates of Heaven came before that, right? So Gates of Heaven was.
This was the film that got a lot of attention.
Okay, because you
more so than anything that
right.
I'd done before.
Good. You can even see in that one clip how Madison might have affected your filmatic eye, in that you were a fan of film noir films and you spent time in cubicles looking at all the films that were in the UW archives. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Who I Am owes a lot to this place. The libraries here, the Wisconsin Historical Society Library, which is one of the most amazing resources, was the recipient of literally thousands of films, and they'd bring these boxes to you with 16mm prints. You could thread them up on a Kodak pageant projector and essentially organize your own film society, your own private film society at this library. And my interest in film really comes from once again, Madison, Wisconsin. Without this place and without the resources of this place, I probably would never have gone into film. And a very active film community. That was another odd thing about it. No film school, no film program per se, but lots and lots of people obsessed with films, lots of film societies.
And when you were here, it was a very interesting cultural stew that I think exists still today. But having grown up in this town, it was a very interesting time in this city. It had to be one of the most interesting cities in the country because of everything that was coming together at that time.
I think it was the place to be. Maybe
I always had that sense too.
Maybe I didn't realize it at the time, but the political activism. Something that I've always been proud of. The fact that this university in particular, I often think about the Cheneys were often married housing somewhere on the other side of campus, but there were these demonstrations against the war, which were really, really important. I think politically important, culturally important. It was a very active and alive place in so many ways. And then it had some of my very favorite mass murderers.
Right. Ed Gein.
As an added bonus.
Okay, now, and Ed Gein,
who would have known?
You would go out to the Mendota State Hospital and interview Ed Gein, who was the character that Alfred Hitchcock used to launch Psycho.
Ed Gein was not at Mendota in those days.
Oh, I'm sorry, where was he?
He was at a place so aptly named Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane in Waupun.
Okay, so you journey up from campus to Waupun to interview him?
I had already graduated. I came back to Wisconsin. Guess why? To interview murderers.
Right. What kind of guy was Ed?
Quite likable. I'm not sure that I can consider myself one of his friends.
Right.
But I got to visit him 3 times. What can I say about this experience? So very strange. I became obsessed with Gein, and I became, by the way, people think it's because it's G-E-I-N, it's German. It's not. It's shortened from the Scottish McGean. I became so obsessed with the case that I moved in with his next door neighbors and lived in central Wisconsin for a good part of a year.
Do you hazard to guess why he did what he did?
Well, here's my professional opinion.
He murdered how many women?
He was out of his mind. Completely out of his mind.
Yeah. You know, you have this knack of finding really interesting interview subjects. When we come back, I want to find out how you identify who you want to focus on, because it is a worldview or a view that's just slightly off plumb. And that's what makes it so fascinating and so different from a lot of the stuff we're forced to watch that comes out in movies these days. So we're in Madison with the ever interesting Errol Morris. Please stay with us. We're back in Madison with UW grad, Academy Award winner, and husband of a girl from Janesville, Wisconsin, Errol Morris. Before we talk about how you find your stories, you met your wife on campus, correct?
I did indeed.
You married a good Wisconsin girl.
I did. I was very lucky.
And you've been married how long now?
Well, we've known each other for, it's going on close to 40 years. We've been married for 27 years.
And did you fall in love here?
Yes.
How?
We're still in love. That's the amazing thing.
I know, it is, yeah. And you live in L.A.
I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Oh, I'm sorry, right. But you work in L.A. on occasion.
I'm trapped in L.A. a good part of the year.
So how did you two meet?
We have an ongoing argument. I believe we met at the 602. She believes we met at Renabaum's. So it has to be one of the two.
Right. And she was talking with you, and you said to her, "I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was thinking about mass murderers." And she found that cute in you. Is that anecdote true?
You got the line wrong. It's a much, much more romantic line.
Oh, okay.
I said to her, I was talking to a mass murderer, but I was thinking of you.
Oh, how could that not melt a young girl's heart? So here is my question. We talked about off plumb. What is it? What I love about your work, at the risk of fawning, is it's great storytelling, and then your visuals are very different. I would argue revolutionary in terms of how you choose to visualize story in a documentary. There's a scene in The Thin Blue Line where the officer's partner is supposed to come out of the car with him, a female partner in Texas. And but she stays in the car, and this guy gets shot, and she was in the car drinking a milkshake. And you have a scene of a milkshake in slow motion being thrown to the ground. And I thought, that is just such a remarkably interesting, intimate way to visually express that moment where this guy's being shot. How did you develop this way of visualizing documentary stories? Because historically, documentaries kind of cut and dried, and there was almost a journalistic component to it, and you walk away from that.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Part of it, I never really wanted to make a movie about a murder investigation. I wanted the movie to be a murder investigation, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Because I got the guy out of prison.
Right.
People always describe The Thin Blue Line as the movie that got a guy out of prison. It wasn't just the movie, it was the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And investigations, in my opinion, usually come down to obsessive details, one detail or another, that makes a difference in how the entire case is perceived, makes a difference in who you consider to be guilty and who you consider to be innocent. And one of these details concerned what this policewoman saw on this dark roadway in Dallas. Did she see what she said she saw? Was she in a position to see what she said she saw?
Did she see the license number,
Did she see anything?
Right.
And the milkshake becomes a way of exploring that question.
Right.
Because it suggests that she never got out of the police car and she probably saw little or nothing.
Right. And you did not have a preconceived notion when you began this process, correct? In fact, did you not likely think they were guilty at first? Of course, you must have had some doubt or you wouldn't have done the piece.
You always have preconceived notions. It's hard to be a human being and not have preconceived notions. But on the other hand, there's a kind of I was a private detective for a number of years.
I know, and you investigated Wall Street fraud, which I would love.
Guess what?
I would love you to do a doc on that.
You have preconceived notions, but you try to investigate in an impartial way. You try to look at evidence. To the extent that anyone is capable of doing that, I tried very, very hard to re-examine this case. And I entered in it not knowing anything. It's a long, long story. I will not bore you with the details. But I had no reason to believe this guy was innocent at first. And I didn't.
Yeah.
And I came through really nuts and bolts investigation to come to believe it's the same story you're told you're going to hear. If you interview someone in prison, you'll meet people say, I'm innocent, I didn't do it, I was
that's what everyone says
at home in bed, blah, blah, blah. By the way, that was this guy's excuse. I was home in bed. The worst excuse in the world.
I want to find out how much of the fact that you were a Wisconsin history major helped you in the research on that film. I don't think they're disconnected. We're with Errol Morris. We're in Madison. We'll be right back. We're going to take some questions from the audience and some of the aspiring filmmakers as well. Stay with us. We're back in Madison with Errol Morris, history grad from the University of Wisconsin, turned Academy Award-winning filmmaker. He's made some of the most popular television commercials that you've seen and didn't know he did. And he's with us today. He's back in Madison. We were talking about the thin blue line. If I may, I'd like to talk a little bit about standard operating procedure, which was your latest general release documentary on the doings at Abu Ghraib prison. Unlike, similar to Thin Blue Line, where, if I'm not mistaken, the female detective in the car, was she ever interviewed in the piece?
She refused to be interviewed.
And then in the Abu Ghraib standard operating procedure, it would seem the moving force in that film and the events that happened in there was also not interviewed. One of the guardsmen, a man, who was having concurrent affairs with two women and was a bit of the ringleader and got the longest sentence, 10 years of the all the enlisted people.
Still in prison.
Still in prison.
Still in prison.
And I'm sorry, I don't remember his name.
Chuck Rayner.
Chuck Rayner. Have you talked with him?
Can't.
I thought you were, in the credits it said you were not allowed to interview him, correct?
That is correct. And another problem in making these kinds of movies is getting access to the people that you need to tell the story.
Right.
And it doesn't always work out in the end.
Right.
The Thin Blue Line, I was very, very lucky. I got the guy who was the real killer. The last interview I did, I almost didn't get it, and I got a confession out of him.
Right.
Well, that's kind of good luck.
Right. Well, it's not just luck. There's an art to the interview. And you have done some very interesting things about how to do interviews on camera. You have invented the Interatron, which is an interviewing device that allows the interview subject to look at your face and yet look at the camera at the same time.
It's my contraption, yes.
It's a contraption, right, which is kind of based on the teleprompter. It's the same technology. But my question is this: what makes for a good interview?
Hearing something that you could never, ever have expected going into it.
And how do you get that?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's creating some kind of anarchic situation, doing something unexpected. Not having any, I mean, it's a terrible admission to make, not having a clear idea of what you want to get and what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. You mean listening?
If it comes to that, yes. I have this rule of thumb. If someone shows up with a list of questions they're going to ask me, and then they tick them off one by one, I know the interview is going to be kind of, what's the technical term, bad. Mm-hmm. An interview should just emerge out of nowhere. I always refuse. For this film I did for the beginning of the Academy Awards, I had to interview the First Lady, Laura Bush.
Did that not win an Emmy? Or was it Person to Person that won an Emmy?
I think it did win.
Yeah, it won an Emmy.
Not for me, but it won an Emmy for some of the people connected with it, yes. But maybe I should just take credit for the Emmy.
Sure, why not?
Why not? I was told by the advance people, you have to give the First Lady a list of questions. You just can't go in there and wing it. It's just never going to happen. And I said, well, I don't do that. He said, well, you're going to have to do it. Well, I never provided the list of questions. We arrive at the White House. They present me with the questions that I'm going to ask the First Lady.
How did that go?
They're all written out, and her responses are all written out. You will ask this question, and then she will give you this answer, and so on and so forth. So I go in, and I ask her, I said, this was about your favorite movie. What's your favorite movie? And it had been written out that her favorite movie was The Wizard of Oz. So I said to her, is your favorite movie really The Wizard of Oz? She said, no. And then we proceeded to do this interview.
Well, you know, they didn't trust you because you were from Madison. They were worried. They knew you were from Madison. We're going to be back. We're in Madison with Errol Morris. We're going to take questions from the audience. I threw my interview notes on the floor.
I noticed.
It just when, you know.
Good move.
Thank you. We'll be right back. We're just talking with Errol Morris here in Madison. He invented the Interrotron, which allows interview subjects who are not good at doing interviews to actually look at the camera lens. If you try to do it, you realize why they paid Peter Jennings $6 million a year, because it's hard to look at a lens and treat it like a human being. Would you be willing to take some questions?
Absolutely.
Would you like to know what the questions are beforehand?
Not really, no.
I'm just kidding. First question is where? Right here. Could you stand up, please?
Yeah, I know that you are an accomplished musician, and I wonder if you'd speak about how you choose music for your films. It's a very evocative component, and I wonder what you're trying to accomplish in the pacing, where it's used, how you choose composers, that kind of thing.
Wonderful question.
My first two films, I didn't use music at all, for whatever reason. And with The Thin Blue Line, the minute I created these visual elements, these reenactments, these repeated scenes of this police officer who was killed in Dallas, it needed music. And I started, I'm not sure why, I started using scratch tracks. Often when you're editing a movie, you'll look around for already existing music and you put it against picture, you see if it works. And the music I started using was Philip Glass. And it worked so extraordinarily well. I started to worry, what in hell am I going to do? I had very little money in those days. I'm going to have to find somebody who can write a track like Philip Glass. And then I had this bright idea, why not get Philip Glass to write the music? And we've done now 3 films. I believe there will be yet another one coming up in the near future. And it's been an extraordinary collaboration. We both actually went to the same music school.
You're trained in the cello, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so your paths first crossed there. And you come from a musical family.
I do.
Right.
Yes.
You want to take another question?
One of the things that I said to him when we first started, he was bothered, I think at first, by the fact that I knew musical theory, because it's different from his normal experience. And we were sitting at his piano in New York together. And I told him, you know, Philip, the problem with this music is it's just not repetitive enough. And he gave me this strange look and said, well, That's a new one. But the music has worked very well, and I've been blessed with really fabulous musical collaborators, Danny Elfman, Caleb Sampson. Very, very fortunate indeed, because music has become really an essential part of what I do.
Great question. Another question, please. Could you stand? Thanks.
Did you find fundraising for your documentaries easier after the airing of The Thin Blue Line?
It's never been easy. It's always been difficult.
Can you finish that when we come back? We have to throw to a break.
Sure.
Someone's telling us to go to a break.
Of course.
Okay. We're going to be back with Errol Morris, and he's going to tell you how to fund your documentary when we return. Show is called Wisconsin Reflections, and reflecting on his days at Wisconsin with us today is Errol Morris, Academy Award-winning documentary filmmaker, and about as interesting a cat as you're going to find. We're taking questions from the audience.
Yes.
Ready for another one? Oh, you were talking about, we should answer the question from last segment. How about financing documentaries after Thin Blue Line? Has it been easier? And your answer was no. Why?
Yes and no. It's been easier because people are aware of me and they're aware of my films. My films have gotten more and more expensive and more ambitious over the years, and they're still hard to finance. That part really hasn't changed.
Documentaries have never been viewed as big blockbuster moneymakers.
And there's a good reason for that.
Another question, please. Hi, what's your name?
Benjamin Lamb.
Benjamin, what's your question?
Could you tell the story about your attempt to exhume Ed Gein's mother from her grave with Werner Herzog? And also, the way I understand it from his side of the story is that he showed up at the cemetery and you agreed to meet him, but you decided not to show up. And if that's true, I'd like to know what made you decide to not show up and go through with it.
Well, the answer to the last part of that question is fear of arrest. The idea of being caught grave robbing in central Wisconsin in the middle of the night.
In the home of a previous grave robber.
I thought would look bad on my resume.
And the reason for this sortie with Werner Herzog was that you had an argument, you both argued whether or not his mother was still in her grave, right?
Well, I lived with Ed Gein's neighbors. I lived in Plainfield for a good part of a year. And this is a terrible story, but I would spend quite a lot of time in Plainfield Cemetery, which is where all of these graves were robbed. One odd thing, I had met this, so try to make this a brief story. I'd met this oddball psychiatrist who had a theory that Ed's mother was still down in the grave, which I think is really untrue. And he had made a map of all of the graves that Ed had robbed and their location. We spent a very odd afternoon together at Plainfield Cemetery with him thumping on the ground with a big stick trying to find out if it was hollow down there or not. And I had mentioned this story to Werner Herzog, and he in turn became obsessed with it. You know, I could go on and on with Ed Gein's stories forever. It's really so little time here.
Errol, does it strike you as odd at all, your fascination with Ed Gein? I mean, didn't you ever find yourself asking yourself, what is it with me that I'm in Plainfield thumping on graves? It's a fair question. Did you ever, did you tell your mother you were doing this?
Yeah, my mom knew. And I was interviewing a lot of mass murderers around the same time. My mother, who had this euphemistic style, said to me, you know, Errol, I wish you would spend more time with people your own age. And I said to her, well, Mom, most of the mass murderers are my own age.
And on that note, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. We're with Errol Morris.
This program is a production of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. If you have comments about this broadcast, please email them to programming@uc.wisc.edu.
Is on my mind.
We're back in Madison. We were talking while you were away with Errol Morris, the Academy Award-winning, remarkable filmmaker who's regularly on the top 10 living directors lists. Roger Ebert, for one, thinks he's one of the top living directors.
And I, in turn, think Roger is one of the top living critics.
Yeah, and he's coming back. You know, he's going to come back on the air with a show and speaking through his typewriter. So that should be
That's great.
interesting.
Roger is just a fabulous critic and a fabulous human being.
And a huge supporter of your work.
And a huge supporter. I owe a lot to him.
Was Gene Siskel a supporter of yours as well?
He was indeed.
Yeah.
Yes. And Roger and I often talk about Gene. Both of them, actually.
I had the pleasure of working with them in Chicago quite often. Do you think there's a Midwestern point of view, since we talk about Siskel, Ebert, you, and how there was a transformational sort of process here when you came east to Madison? Does a good dose of the Midwest help an artist?
For me, yes. I have been defined by the Midwest. And a lot of the stories, Ed Gein being a perfectly good example, a lot of the stories that have obsessed me over the years are Midwestern stories.
You know, you keep using the word obsessed. You know, there's a famous line about, to be successful, you must get obsessed and stay obsessed. Is obsession one of the keys to great art?
It's a key to what I do. I know that much. There's stories that just grab a hold of me, and I stick with them.
And the beauty of it is you pick stories that other people don't. How does something, do you see any trends or tendencies in the stories that grab a hold of you?
You've picked probably the thing that I am most proud of, and that is picking stories that other people would stay away from.
Right.
Stories about pariahs, stories about monsters. I've often thought that part of what art is about, if art is about anything, and it might not be about anything, but part of what I think it's about is extending interest and sympathy in places where people really have not gone before. Looking at things that people have really not looked at before. Perhaps looking at things in a different way.
You know, I was really struck by that, and we're just about to wrap up here. With standard operating procedure, you took what was a shocking international incident, and you came at it almost from that it was just a pitiful little Peyton place. The human stories that were going on with the perpetrators of some of the acts, it was just a seedy little story of what happens when you leave the wrong people in a bad place for too long. I mean, it was amazing. And we have to ring off now. The show is ending. Everybody, Errol Morris. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching On Wisconsin.
The preceding program was produced by the University of Wisconsin in association with the Big Ten Network.